Chapter 31 Level 30, Dai Mubai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time flies like water, and a year has passed in the blink of an eye. Oscar, who is only 11 years and 6 months old, has a soul power that has broken through from the original 27th level to the 30th level. He only needs one soul ring to achieve it. Become a true soul master. In the past 2 years, in addition to Oscar's own soul power cultivation not falling at all, his sword practice has also made great progress. Now he can be called a swordsman. He is completely familiar with Xuangyue's sword manual. He is not bad at using the sword. What satisfies Oscar the most is that he has mastered one of the most important core skills of a swordsman, which is sword flying. That's right, it's Edgeworth. In addition to sword control, Oscar also mastered sword energy, but his sword energy was still different from the sword energy at the level of Gaiyu and Chen Renxue, whether it is Chen Renxue or Gaiyu. They are both beings who have mastered the true sword intention. Their sword energy is not inferior to soul skills at all, and is even more practical than soul skills to a certain extent. Oscar's sword energy is combined with the condensed properties of the attached soul bone. Although it lacks the sword intention, the power may be a little worse, but before he obtains the 7th soul ring, he is faced with no martial spirit. Oscar will not be left behind when facing his real opponent, and when Oscar was able to face an opponent with the 7th spirit ring martial soul's true form, he might have understood the true sword intention at that time, and his sword energy would also improve accordingly. Therefore, although the externally attached soul bone cannot allow Oscar to absorb the soul ring, what is provided to him is not bad at all, and it has completely given Oscar the strength to rival the attack-type soul master. It can be said that Oscar's progress in the past 2 years has been very obvious and huge. As a teacher, Gaiyu has lamented Oscar's talent countless times. In addition to Oscar, the teachers at Shrek Academy have also made good progress, and all of this is due to the whale glue they captured during the hunt 2 years ago. Nowadays, Gaiyu's soul power is breaking through, reaching level 84, and Flanders's Zhao Wuji's soul power has also reached the level when he appeared in the original work. The two are at level 78 and 76 respectively. Not only the two of them, but Xiao Xian, Lu Qibin and Li Yusong have also reached the level when they appeared in the original work. Xiao Xian still falls short, that is, like Oscar, he has reached a bottleneck and needs to obtain a 7th soul ring before he can reach the strength he had when he appeared in the original work. Now at level 70. Xiao Xian only needs one soul ring to become the 3rd soul saint of Shrek Academy. In addition to the teachers, Hongjun has also reached level 25 from the original level 22. His strength improvement has been maintained at an average speed and he has not slacked off. Moreover, his self-created soul skills have been improved a lot in the past 2 years, which has greatly improved his melee combat ability, and the most important thing is his 2nd soul skill. His 2nd soul skill is still the same as in the original work, called Fire Phoenix. When using the soul skill, the power of the flames increases by 50%, but in addition, his soul skill also has another feature, that is, it can enhance the power of the soul skill by consuming his evil fire. In other words, the evil fire accumulated by Ma Hongjun's usual practice can not only be released through this soul skill, but when there is enough evil fire, it can also increase the power of this soul skill, making his strength burst even higher. It can be said that the 2nd soul ring of the Phoenix bloodline that Flanders carefully selected for him completely changed Ma Hongjun, so that he no longer had to worry about the evil fire. As long as he feels that he can't hold on any longer, he can just use his 2nd soul skill to fight with others. It can be said that it has greatly improved the influence of Ma Hongjun's evil fire on him. Now, Oscar and Xiao Xian's breakthrough naturally brought joy to Shrek. However, they did not get the soul ring immediately because today was the registration day for the academy to recruit new students. It was already noon when Oscar broke through level 30. But Oscar himself was not too excited because he had already expected this. However, there is one thing that Oscar is more concerned about now, and that is that based on age, this year should be the day when Dai Mubai enters Shrek Academy. I just don't know if this guy came to Shrek Academy like the original. It's not that Oscar has any thoughts about Dai Mubai, it's just that Oscar, who has read the original work, knows that Shrek Academy has basically had no students in recent years. If there can be one more Dai Mubai now, it will be able to add more students to the academy. Some popularity, and to be honest, from the perspective of the original work, Dai Mubai's talent is not bad. Dai Mubai was 15 years old when he appeared in the original work, but his soul power was already as high as level 37, and this is the result of him wasting his talent by playing girls every day. If this is the case, Dai Mubai's talent is definitely not bad, and is even better than most geniuses. It's just that the image created by the original work is a bit grim and unforgettable, making it difficult for ordinary people to like him. However, Oscar didn't have any thoughts about Dai Mubai because of the influence of the original work. After all, after coming to this world, Oscar discovered that there was a big difference between the novel and reality. So no matter what Dai Mubai is like, only he can know it after his own personal experience. I just don't know if Dai Mubai has come to the academy to register now. With this idea in mind, Oscar didn't even eat lunch and went directly to the registration area. Across the courtyard, Oscar could see many people in the academy. The fact that these people were able to enter the academy proved that they had passed the first level, but Oscar knew that these people would be the same as those in previous years, and would be eliminated in the subsequent levels. Brushed down, however, it is worth mentioning that although the college looks simple, it has everything it needs now, and the environment is like a paradise, which has indeed attracted many students. The only thing missing may be a mimicry training venue that a real high-level Soul Master Academy has. However, the construction of a mimicry training venue is not only time-consuming and labor-intensive, but also a huge bottomless pit of funds, so Shrek Academy currently does not have one. However, Oscar himself arranged a simple mimicry training venue. After all, his martial spirit is sausage, so he arranged a kitchen. In fact, it is not considered to be arranged by him, because he used Xiao Xian's kitchen to renovate it. However, because Xiao Xian has now reached level 70, ordinary mimic training venues have basically no effect on him, so this thing has some effect on Oscar, but Oscar's training speed has not improved much. Instead, his cooking skills have improved rapidly. Now Oscar himself can cook good dishes. Oscar came all the way to the soul fighting stage in the square. At this time, there were two people standing on the soul fighting stage. One was Hongjun, and the other person Oscar guessed was Dai Mubai, because his appearance was indeed iconic, with his blonde hair flying freely. 12-year-old Dai Mubai is about 1.78 meters tall, with odd-colored eyes, handsome appearance and extraordinary temperament. Although Hongjun is only 9 years old, he is also 1.68 meters tall after having absorbed 2 soul rings, which is only 10 centimeters shorter than Dai Mubai, but in terms of temperament, although Hongjun is not as noble as Dai Mubai, his handsome and masculine face has a calmness and confidence that Dai Mubai does not have. This is something he has learned from following Oscar over the years. In Hongjun's eyes, only Oscar is worthy of being his eldest brother among his peers, and everyone else has to step aside. What's more, Dai Mubai's soul power level in front of him is the same as his, only level 25. At this time, Oscar had already reached the high platform in front of the soul fighting stage. Zhao Wuji, who was the referee, and Hongjun and Dai Mubai, who were preparing to fight on the soul fighting stage, also noticed him. Seeing Oscar, Zhao Wuji chuckled. Xiao Ao, have you achieved a breakthrough? Simple. Oscar nodded, then looked at Dai Mubai. Who is this? Hongjun answered at this time. Brother Ao, he should be the only student who has the opportunity to enter our Shrek Academy this year. His name is Dai Mubai. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. Chapter 32 Hongjun vs Dai Mubai. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Dai Mubai has been sizing up Oscar ever since he appeared. From the moment he signed up to the time he is preparing to fight the soul, Dai Mubai has been full of surprises about Shrek Academy, because according to his original understanding, although Shrek Academy is said to only recruit monsters, its reputation from the outside world is very average. Originally, he came here just to hide his name and avoid the pursuit of the Imperial brother. It was only when he stepped into this academy that he realized that this academy was not ordinary. The man collecting the registration fee at the door looked like an old farmer, but he was actually a genuine soul emperor. And the deputy director of the referee is also a strong man at the soul saint level. Of course, the most important thing was the handsome red-haired boy in front of him. He looked about the same age as him, but the confidence and calmness on his face was beyond his imagination. From the time Ma Hongjun brought him in until now, he had talked a lot with him. Not only did he know that Ma Hongjun had reached the terrifying level 25 when he was only 9 years old, but he also heard Ma Hongjun say that he had an older brother. That big brother is the real monster. Not only is he handsome, he can also wield a sword. Dai Mubai was very curious at that time who could make a genius like Ma Hongjun recognize him as his elder brother. Now that he saw Oscar, even though he didn't know Oscar's true strength and martial spirit, Dai Mubai felt that Ma Hongjun did what he did just because of his temperament. But why does Shrek Academy have such a bad reputation from the outside world? Before Dai Mubai could think about anything, Zhao Wuji coughed and spoke again. The assessment continues. Both sides released their martial spirits. Oscar didn't interrupt, he just stood next to Zhao Wuji, picked up the kettle on the table, got 2 glasses of peach water, and handed one to Zhao Wuji. Ma Hongjun, Martial Spirit, Evil Fire Phoenix, Level 25 Attack System Spirit Master. Ma Hongjun reported his martial soul and soul power level. 2 yellow soul rings slowly rose up on his body. The raging flames on his body suddenly erupted, and even the surrounding air became a little hotter. As the flames surged, a loud phoenix cry resounded, and Ma Hongjun was as domineering as a fiery phoenix wearing a phoenix crown. Today's Ma Hongjun is no longer the fat boy he was 3 years ago. After practicing with Oscar for more than 3 years, his strength is also different now. In fact, to be honest, at the same level, if Oscar had not obtained the Azure Jade Sword with attached soul bone, Oscar would not dare to be said to be Ma Hongjun's opponent. After all, Ma Hongjun's martial spirit is a genuine phoenix, a pure top-level martial spirit. Even Dai Mubai's White Tiger martial spirit may be a little inferior to him. Of course, this is the current state where Ma Hongjun can suppress and control the evil fire. After all, the evil fire has both advantages and disadvantages for Ma Hongjun, but now only the advantages remain. Looking at the surging Ma Hongjun, Dai Mubai couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He knew that he had indeed underestimated the Shrek Academy before coming, but he didn't expect that he still underestimated Ma Hongjun's power. But precisely because of this, Dai Mubai's desire to win arose in his heart, and if it was Shrek Academy like this, wouldn't it make more sense for him to join? He did escape because he couldn't compete with the eldest brother in the family, but that didn't mean he gave up directly. In other words, Dai Mubai at this stage is still lucky. After all, he is only 12 years old, and he is not as frustrated with playing with things as he was when he appeared in the original work. Dai Mubai, Martial Spirit, White Tiger, Level 25 Attack Spirit Master, please give me your advice. Dai Mubai also shouted loudly. 2 yellow soul rings rose up on his body, white hair covered his whole body, and a black 3 horizontal and 1 vertical word appeared on his forehead, matched with his evil eyes. The whole person's momentum has also changed. Although he can't compare with Ma Hongjun at this stage, he can barely fall behind. Yes, if you can withstand my pressure without being timid, you are qualified to be my opponent. Ma Hongjun chuckled and said, then let me see your strength. I saw that Ma Hongjun did not release his soul skill, but his soul power surged on his body, and powerful flames erupted from his body. Ma Hongjun's speed suddenly increased, and his claws suddenly condensed into a pair of flaming claws with explosive aura. He grabbed Dai Mubai from the air, then I saw 2 red flame claw marks attacking Dai Mubai. This is Ma Hongjun's self-created soul skill that he has now perfected. He can completely freely use and compress the flames as a regular attack method. Dai Mubai saw that Ma Hongjun could launch such a violent and explosive attack without even using his soul skills, and he had a new evaluation of his strength in his heart. In fact, most of the skills for using one's own martial soul attributes are not considered self-created soul skills. But Ma Hongjun's skill is different from the ordinary ones because he completely compresses the flames to form an explosive attack move, which is an ordinary soul master's skill. Neither can be done. Create your own soul skills. Dai Mubai murmured in a low voice. Without any hesitation, the second yellow soul ring on his body lit up. The second soul skill, White Tiger Fierce Light Wave. Following the release of his soul skill, Dai Mubai suddenly spit out a golden light wave from his mouth, defeating Ma Hongjun's attack. At this time, Ma Hongjun was not surprised that Dai Mubai could resist his flying flame claw. After all, he didn't even use his soul skill, but he used his second soul skill. As the first wave of offensive started, Ma Hongjun, who had accelerated flame eruption, was already close to Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai directly used his first soul skill, the White Tiger Body Barrier, to increase his attack, strength and defense by 50%. It has to be said that Dai Mubai himself, as a genius with 9th level innate soul power, has the support of the Xingluo royal family, and his 2 soul rings are of the highest quality. It is reasonable for his soul skills to have such power. After all, the White Tiger martial spirit can be regarded as a top-notch martial spirit. With the support of various foundations, Dai Mubai's current strength is not bad, it's just that he met Ma Hongjun. Although Ma Hongjun is a mage with long-range bursts, after 3 years of training, his physical fitness at level 25 has reached the level of a soul master at level 35. Even if Dai Mubai used the first soul skill to increase his strength, it would be difficult to make up for the absolute strength gap. After all, an increase of 50% is half of level 25, but Ma Hongjun already has the physical fitness of a level 35 soul master, so after Dai Mubai used his first soul skill, Ma Hongjun's crimson flaming claw fell, and Dai Mubai directly connected with the fist. And then his whole body flew out directly, and his arm was fractured with a click. That's right, it was a fracture, but Ma Hongjun didn't hold back because this was an assessment, not a competition. After all, this is also for him to choose future teammates and study partners. He naturally needs to know the strength of the other party. Ah! Dai Mubai, who flew backwards, cried out in pain. Just when Ma Hongjun and Dai Mubai were about to admit defeat, Dai Mubai slowly got up from the ground, held his right arm and said in a deep voice, "I haven't given up yet." Dai Mubai didn't admit defeat. Although he was horrified by Ma Hongjun's terrifying strength, he wanted to know how big the gap was between them, and he didn't want to just admit defeat. Oscar and Zhao Wuji were both very interested in Dai Mubai at this time, because this boy did have a bit of an appetite for them. To continue fighting with a broken arm speaks volumes. At this time, Oscar also understood the difference between the original work and reality. No matter how romantic Dai Mubai was in the original work when he appeared, at least he still seems to be a man now, and judging from the later period of the original work, Dai Mubai seems to have had no bad deeds except for going to the Rose Hotel to sleep with the twins when he appeared. As an eldest brother, he also played a very good leading role. After all, in the original work, Dai Mubai was already able to use his own soul skills during the Soul Master competition, and he was fighting against his elder brother whose soul power was close to that of the Soul King. "Teacher Zhao, this kid is pretty good. It seems that there is another good prospect this year." Oscar couldn't help but said to Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji also laughed, "It's indeed good. Although his talent is not as good as that of you and Hongjun, he is still a little monster." While the two were talking, Dai Mubai had already launched another attack on Ma Hongjun. The second soul skill, White Tiger Fierce Light Wave, that the power of a charged White Tiger Fierce Light Wave was a bit stronger than the previous one, because Dai Mubai poured more soul power into it this time, but for Ma Hongjun, it was just a matter of asking him to take it seriously. "You are very good, so I decided to make you more respectable." Ma Hongjun twisted his neck, and the 2 yellow soul rings on his body lit up instantly. The second soul skill, Phoenix and Fire, that the power of fire increases by 50%, in fact, for a pure explosion like Ma Hongjun, a 50% increase in flame power means that his strength has increased by 50%, because his attack methods are mainly based on flames. The first soul skill, Phoenix Fireline, that with the blessing of the second soul skill, terrifying flames also spewed out of Ma Hongjun's mouth, causing a wave of air the moment they collided with Dai Mubai's White Tiger Fierce Light Wave. However, although they were both at level 25, Dai Mubai's soul power was far inferior to Ma Hongjun's. He only lasted for a second before the Phoenix Fire Line suppressed his White Tiger Fierce Light Wave and headed towards him. Just when Dai Mubai was about to be engulfed by Ma Hongjun's flames, Ma Hongjun stopped his offensive. Dai Mubai fell to his knees with a plop when his soul power was exhausted. Fortunately, Ma Hongjun was fast enough and helped Dai Mubai up. Sensing that Dai Mubai was not in good condition, Ma Hongjun shouted to Oscar, "Brother Ao, Sausage, Oscar took out 2 large super recovery sausages directly from the soul guide and threw them to Ma Hongjun. The reason why Oscar is able to take out sausages from the soul guide every time is because Oscar basically uses soul skills to make sausages every day, or every few days, until his soul power is exhausted. Therefore, Oscar's own soul guide has already stored a large amount of sausages, which can be used for emergencies at any time, and will not be made until needed, and this is what Oscar couldn't figure out when he read the original work. The cultivation speed is obviously there, why not save some in advance? After Ma Hongjun ate 1 sausage, he stuffed another sausage into Dai Mubai's mouth and explained, by the way. This is AOGE's number 1 soul skill. It can continuously restore soul power, physical strength, injuries and mental power. Please collect, recommend and vote for me monthly. Chapter 33 Brother AO, Twin Martial Spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the sausage enters the mouth, there is no need to chew it as the essence of the soul flows into the body and continues to be restored for Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai, who was already a little depressed, quickly regained his energy after taking Oscar's first soul skill. At the same time, Dai Mubai himself also sighed, the effect of this soul skill is too strong, right? In just a short while, most of his soul power and physical strength had recovered, and the pain in his originally fractured right arm was no longer so severe, and the reason why it can have such an effect is because Oscar's soul power level is much higher than that of Dai Mubai. The sausage Dai Mubai ate was made when Oscar was at level 29. For him, 1 sausage was enough to provide him with enough recovery. Teacher Zhao, do I pass the assessment or fail? Dai Mubai, being supported by Ma Hongjun, couldn't help but ask Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji laughed when he heard this. Although the competition is a test, it does not necessarily have to be based on winning. If you can be recognized by Xiao Ao, this is a sign of your admission. Hearing this, Dai Mubai was happy and couldn't help but take another look at Oscar next to Zhao Wuji. Not only does Ma Hongjun blindly admire this silver-haired handsome guy, but even Zhao Wuji, the deputy dean of the Soul Saint, has such a high opinion of this Oscar. But Ma Hongjun also said just now that what he just took was Oscar's number 1 soul skill. So, shouldn't Oscar be a food-type soul master? Although judging from the effect of the soul skill and Oscar's age, the opponent must be a genius no less powerful than Ma Hongjun, but isn't the food soul master an auxiliary? How could an assistant be admired by Ma Hongjun, an offensive type, and praised so highly by the vice dean? Is the sign of your success in admission because you have been recognized by the other party? When did the food department become so awesome? While Dai Mubai was thinking, Oscar jumped down from the high platform and came to Dai Mubai. Your right forearm is slightly fractured. I'll give you a simple bandage first. With your physical condition, you should be fine after half a month's rest. Oscar said as he began to bandage Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai didn't resist, but couldn't help but look at Oscar. At such a close distance, Dai Mubai could clearly see how handsome Oscar was, and his skin was so good. Bah, what am I thinking? Dai Mubai couldn't help but shook his head, throwing away these ghost thoughts. Oscar quickly bandaged Dai Mubai and hung his right arm around his neck to prevent it from breaking apart during movement. Introduction: my name is Oscar, Wuhuan, Supreme Sausage, and now Shrek's eldest brother. Oscar said, then chuckled, of course, if you want this position, you just need to defeat me. Ah. Dai Mubai was stunned for a moment, and then said in surprise, aren't you a food-type soul master? Ma Hongjun laughed at the side and said, Brother Ao is not as simple as you think, but if you want to challenge him, you better defeat me first. Dai Mubai smiled bitterly when he heard this. He was now 12 years old and level 25, while Ma Hongjun was 9 years old and level 25. Not only was he unable to match them in terms of talent, he was also far behind in terms of strength. Challenge for Oscar. He can't even beat Ma Hongjun. However, Dai Mubai couldn't help but ask, what is your innate soul power level? Ma Hongjun smiled and replied, level 9. What? Dai Mubai was stunned when he heard the 9th level, because his innate soul power was also at the 9th level. Why was there such a big gap? Ma Hongjun looked at Dai Mubai's appearance and asked, "Why, your innate soul power is also level 9, Hearing this, Dai Mubai nodded sheepishly, "Yes, but my cultivation speed is no longer slow." "How can you practice so fast?" Ma Hongjun glanced at Oscar after hearing this, and then said, "Because Brother Ao, as long as you practice with Brother Ao, it will be difficult to fall behind." As he said that, Ma Hongjun thought of the painful training scenes before and couldn't help but shuddered. He didn't know how he persisted. When Dai Mubai heard this, he looked at Oscar. Thinking that Ma Hongjun had said before that Oscar could also play swordplay, Dai Mubai became even more confused. Could it be that he is a twin martial soul? Dai Mubai was born into the royal family, so he still had some experience. He has sausage martial arts, and if Ma Hongjun told him that Oscar was a swordsman genius before they joined forces, only twin martial arts can explain it. Thinking of this, Dai Mubai sighed again. Is this the Shrek Academy that only accepts monsters? If this is the case, then he may be able to learn more here, and it is not impossible to surpass that big brother in the future. Dai Mubai, who had already wanted to give up, didn't realize that there was a glimmer of hope this time. Zhao Wuji looked at the three people who were already chatting happily, and said directly, "Since you all know each other, Xiao Ao, please take Dai Mubai to the dormitory, and take him to get familiar with the college." Oscar nodded, "Leave it to us." Then Zhao Wuji continued to wait where he was, while Ma Hongjun said to Oscar, "Brother Ao, I will continue to go to Teacher Li's place to help." Oscar nodded in response, and then said to Dai Mubai, "Can you leave by yourself?" Dai Mubai nodded, then followed Oscar and left the square. Dai Mubai followed Oscar as he walked and watched. Oscar introduced him to the environment of the college and also told him about each teacher in the college. When Dai Mubai heard that the teacher with the lowest cultivation level in Shrek Academy was the Soul Emperor, he was a little confused. Being born in the royal family, he certainly knows how rare powerful soul masters are. Now there are several of them in one Shrek Academy. And there is actually a Contra among them. However, when he heard Oscar say that this Contra was his teacher and did not teach, Dai Mubai became even more curious about Oscar's identity. Oscar is not only respected by Ma Hongjun, but even Vice Dean Zhao Wuji treats Oscar like his own son. Now the Oscar in front of him has a Contra teacher. After hesitating for a long time, Dai Mubai planned to ask his doubts. Although it was a bit uncomfortable to be so straightforward, he found that Oscar was quite easygoing. "Brother Ao, what level are you at now? You're not much older than Ma Hongjun, right?" Dai Mubai asked. When Oscar heard Dai Mubai's name, he was stunned for a moment, and then smiled. "You can call me that, after all, Shrek has always respected our strength." Dai Mubai nodded as expected when he heard this. Although he was proud, he couldn't even beat Ma Hongjun, so how could he dare to be so presumptuous about Oscar, who was praised even by Ma Hongjun? And at this time, in Dai Mubai's eyes, Oscar was most likely the owner of the legendary twin martial souls. "I just broke through level 30 at noon. I'm 2 years older than Hongjun, and I'm 11 this year." Oscar didn't hide anything and said directly. Hearing Oscar's answer, Dai Mubai was stunned. 11 years old and 30. No wonder that Ma Hongjun would be like this to Oscar. Such a talent has never been heard of even by him. "Brother Ao, aren't you the legendary twin martial soul? The sausage you gave me earlier was a food-based soul skill, and Ma Hongjun said you are also a talented swordsman." Dai Mubai continued to ask. "Road, please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. The first round of recommendations is on the 7th. Brother Meng, give me some help and try to make us eat all the previous rounds of recommendations." Chapter 34 Set off to hunt for souls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Faced with Dai Mubai's question, Oscar just smiled slightly, and then said, "Actually, it's okay if you understand it this way, but I am not a twin martial spirit." Times degree times. Hearing this, Dai Mubai was a little confused for a moment. What does it mean that it is okay to understand so well? And then it's not twin martial souls. How can you practice swordsmanship if you don't have twin martial souls? Oscar had no intention of hiding it from Dai Mubai, because there was no need. After all, he would often use the azure jade sword, so unless he didn't use it, there was no need to hide it, and now that Dai Mubai will not leave after joining Shrek, there is no danger to Oscar. Besides, no matter how bad things go, there is still a strong man like his teacher Gaiyu. Unless a titled Douluo comes, who can hurt him? And the titled Douluo also looked down upon his external soul bones. After all, after the external soul bones were fused, they couldn't be removed and used like the 6 main soul bones, so Oscar didn't have to worry about this at all. Outside, Oscar would package himself as a soul master with sword martial souls, and he wouldn't have to worry about others coveting his external soul bone. Seeing Dai Mubai's puzzled expression, Oscar raised his left hand, and a sky blue jade sword appeared directly. In Oscar's right hand, an orange sausage slowly appeared. Seeing the martial spirits on Oscar's left and right hands, Dai Mubai exclaimed, "Twin martial spirits. But these are obviously twin martial souls. Brother Ao, how can you say it's not the case?" Oscar smiled when he heard this and explained, "My martial soul is the supreme sausage, and this is my external soul bone." Oscar said, taking back the sausage, still holding the azure jade sword in his hand, and showed it to Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai became even more puzzled when he heard this. A soul bone attached to the outside? Is there this type of externally attached soul bone? And can externally attached soul bones be cultivated like martial souls? But how is this possible? As Oscar walked, he continued to explain his external soul bone to Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai only felt a little incredible after hearing this, not to mention Oscar's luck. Oscar's talent and perseverance are beyond his reach. As a food-type soul master, he is able to become a being comparable to an attack-type soul master by relying on the external soul bones. This is undoubtedly a special existence in the soul master world. Dai Mubai did not doubt what Oscar said, because whether it was from Ma Hongjun's previous description or from Vice Dean Zhao Wuji's attitude towards Oscar just now, Oscar had an unparalleled status in Shrek. At this moment, Dai Mubai felt more and more that he might have come to Shrek at the right time. After all, he has such a talented student, so will he also have such an improvement after entering? After all, those who are close to vermilion are red, and those who are close to ink are black, and Oscar and Ma Hongjun are obviously the red ones, and the most important thing is that the two of them have such talents. If they become friends or even brothers, then when they face the pursuit of their elder brother in the future, they will help them, or in other words, they will have the support of the forces behind them. Wouldn't it be possible to escape? Of course, this is just Dai Mubai's idea. What will happen depends on how he contacts these two people. It was already afternoon when he took Dai Mubai to get familiar with the academy. Oscar didn't even eat at noon, so after getting familiar with the academy, Oscar took Dai Mubai directly to the cafeteria and had a delicious meal. When Dai Mubai saw the ingredients in the canteen, he was shocked again, because this was actually soul beast meat. And judging from the energy felt in the food, this food is definitely from at least 1,000-year level, and this meal was exactly the sea soul beast that Flanders and the others had hunted before. The sea soul beast was so huge that it would take more than half a year for a few of us at Shrek Academy to eat it. Gaiyu froze the remaining uneaten food. Just defrost some when it's time to eat. After Oscar took Dai Mubai to dinner, today's enrollment was over. Just like the original work, only Dai Mubai was admitted. However, the enrollment period lasted for 3 days, and there were 2 more days to come. However, except for Oscar, no one else knew that Dai Mubai should be the only student this year. However, Oscar will naturally not stay in the academy waiting for admission. After all, he has already reached level 30, and obtaining the soul ring is the first priority, so after Oscar settled down with Dai Mubai that night, he went to find Gaiyu. He planned to set off to obtain the 3rd soul ring tomorrow. Of course, there is also Xiao Xian, who has also broken through to level 70 and can be promoted to Soul Saint with only 1 soul ring, and because these 2 days are the days for the college to recruit students, it is only necessary for Gaiyu to take Oscar and Xiao Xian to obtain the soul rings. Because Xiao Xian is a food-type soul master, this time they chose the closer Sunset Forest as their destination. Sunset Forest is within the Tiando Empire and is more than 100 miles south of Tiando City. The reason why he chose Sunset Forest, apart from the fact that Xiao Xian's soul ring was easier to obtain there, the more important reason was Oscar himself. The soul ring he wanted to obtain for his third soul ring was still the same as in the original work. He wanted a flying soul skill, but the choice of soul beast Oscar was clearer. It is not the crested snake like in the original work, but the sharp-tailed swift that is said to be purely sensitive and the fastest. There is not a sharp-tailed swift group in Sunset Forest, so Oscar chose Sunset Forest. Since he had to choose a flying soul skill, speed would naturally be the top priority, and Oscar would definitely want the best soul ring, rather than having no direction like the original work. Whatever you encounter is what you encounter. If that were the case, wouldn't Oscar have been blind for so many years? After determining the goal and destination, Guy Yu set off with Oscar and Xiao Xian the next day. Flanders and the others did not go together, but stayed in the college to take charge of the overall situation. After all, it was still the enrollment time for freshmen, and they also wanted to recruit a few more geniuses. After all, there are only 3 people in the academy including Dai Mubai, and it is impossible to form a normal team. Oscar, who has left the academy, doesn't have so many ideas. After all, he knows that there will only be Dai Mubai this year, and there will be no newcomers in the next 2 years, and only in the 3rd year will someone come, and if nothing goes wrong by that time, their Shrek 7 Devils Heavenly Group should have gathered together, and this is what Oscar is looking forward to, because if Tang San comes, then he will have the opportunity to receive an immortal herb just like in the original work, which will allow him to improve his strength even more. Quickly, it's not that Oscar himself doesn't want to go to the Ice and Fire Eyes, but because now he has no chance at all. If there is a chance, Oscar is not 100% sure, but he is also very sure to win Dugu'ao, and then do it himself, receive the 2 eyes of ice and fire, because he has not been idle in the past 5 years. Whether it is pharmacology or medicine refining, he has been doing experiments himself. In addition, because of reading the original work, he also made some small suggestions on how to detoxify Dugu'ao experiment. Although it is not certain that it will be successful, if there is a chance to give Dugu'ao or Dugu Yan a try, Oscar will definitely be able to find the right method quickly. After all, there are a lot of medicinal materials in Binghuo Liang's eyes. Oscar has also collected many pharmacological books over the years, and some of them have records of fairy herbs. Although not all, they are enough for Oscar to use. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. Something delayed me yesterday, so I'm sorry for the slow update. Chapter 35 The Third Soul Ring, Level 33. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It only took the 3 of them a week to get from Shrek Academy to Sunset Forest. After arriving at Sunset Forest, everyone headed directly towards the location where Oscar had checked the information. Spirit beasts like sharp-tailed swifts generally do not change their habitat location. Of course, if the other party changes, Oscar will only have to spend some more time looking for it. Although the Sunset Forest is not as large as the Star Do Forest, its overall scope is not small. It is probably about 1/3 the size of the Star Do Forest. Its vast scope occupies a large part of the Tiando Empire. There are also various mountains crisscrossing it, but 70% of the ones living in the Sunset Forest are plant-type soul beasts, and beast-type soul beasts only account for about 30%. This is because of the climate of the location of Sunset Forest, so Sunset Forest is also the place of choice for most plant-type soul masters and some weak soul masters. This is because the risk factor here is lower compared to the Star Do Forest. After all, most of the plant-type soul beasts are not as aggressive as the beast spirits, and Guy Yu is now level 85. With him here, with his strength, if he is not 100,000-year level soul beast, there will be no problem in protecting Oscar and Xiao Xian. What's more, with the help of Xiao Xian, a level 70 quasi-soul saint, his strength is even more powerful, so when the 3 of them are walking in the Sunset Forest, the atmosphere is relatively relaxed. Speaking of which, because of the whale glue hunt 2 years ago, the teachers of Shrek Academy have also made significant breakthroughs. Each has reached the state when they appeared 3 years later in the original work. Flanders and Zhao Wuji respectively already level 78 and 76. And this can be considered a good gain for Oscar. After all, the stronger the teachers are, the stronger his backstage strength is now. Shrek Academy can be said to be Oscar's current backstage. After all, it's hard for him to join other forces. After all, if he leaves now, he won't be able to meet Tang San. After searching for a week in the Sunset Forest, Oscar's third soul ring was finally found because they discovered the group of sharp-tailed swifts. According to Guy Yu's observation, there are at least 3,000-year-old beings in this sharp-tailed swift group, and the number of the entire group seems to be more than 50. This discovery undoubtedly made Oscar the most excited, because his third soul ring was found. According to his current physical condition, the age of the third soul ring is between 6,000 and 7,500 years. If you want the most conservative age, then 6,500 to 7,000 years is the safest. During this period, Oscar could perfectly absorb the soul ring without worrying about being swallowed up by the soul ring and exploding his body, so after weighing the pros and cons, Guy Yu set his sights on a 6,700-year-old sharp-tailed swift. After deciding on the target, Guy Yu asked Oscar and Xiao Xian to wait in a safe place while he went to capture a sharp-tailed swift for Oscar. Although the sharp-tailed swifts are very fast, it can be said that their speed is unmatched by anyone at the same level, but Guy Yu is a level 85 Contra. Although the 1,000-year level sharp-tailed swift is fast, it is basically impossible to escape from Guy Yu's hands, so only an hour passed before Guy Yu returned to Oscar with a 6,700-year-old sharp-tailed swift. Oscar himself was very excited to see the satisfactory source of the third soul ring, although he can now rely on the Azure Jade Sword to control the sword and fly. From the perspective of providing support, flying is indeed the only choice. Oscar also considered obtaining some spirit rings with offensive power in the third spirit ring, but after thinking about it for a long time, Oscar felt that he should consider auxiliary spirit skills first, because the attack power provided by a 1,000-year level soul skill, even if it is absorbed beyond the level, is definitely not as powerful as a 10,000-year soul ring. That's why Oscar chose to acquire an auxiliary soul skill instead of acquiring an offensive soul skill now, aren't the copied soul skills that are as powerful as the original Oscar's sixth soul ring also come from the sixth soul ring, and the sixth soul ring of the original Oscar has reached 25,000 years. Although Oscar was able to absorb soul rings at a higher level at this stage, even the little blessing brought by leapfrog absorption was definitely not as good as a real 10,000-year soul ring. And the most important thing is that Oscar now has the Azure Jade Sword to make up for the lack of attack power. There is no need to consider offensive soul skills at all costs, and 1,000-year level offensive soul skills may not be as good as Oscar's own sword. Although his Azure Spirit Jade Sword is not a real martial spirit, it will never suffer a loss before level 70, and after level 70, his Azure Spirit Jade Sword will also evolve as his strength improves. So his attack power is completely sufficient. In this case, why doesn't he acquire more auxiliary soul skills? After all, there are no restrictions on how he can use his own soul skills now, and the effects are the same as when others use them. Therefore, under the condition of having the Azure Jade Sword, Oscar's acquisition of several more auxiliary skills will be beneficial to his strength, and will even greatly improve his future team. Therefore, after comprehensive consideration, Oscar still chose the Flying Soul skill, and the Flying Soul beast he chose was still the best among them, with a lifespan of up to 6,700 years. Xiao Ao, do it. After Guy Yu finished speaking, he stood aside to protect Oscar. Oscar nodded and looked at the sharp-tailed swift whose whole body was frozen except for its head. Oscar decisively summoned the Azure Jade Sword and killed the soul beast with one sword strike. As Oscar took action to end the life of the sharp-tailed swift, a purple soul ring slowly condensed and took shape. Oscar sat cross-legged and released his own martial soul. Two yellow soul rings slowly emerged from his body, following the pull of Oscar's soul power. The purple soul ring on the sharp-tailed swift's body slowly came to the top of Oscar's head. However, even with the pressure of more than 6,000 years of soul power pouring down on him, Oscar's expression remained expressionless. Calm. Xiao Xian saw from the side that Oscar had begun to absorb the soul ring, so he picked up the body of the sharp-tailed swift and started to process it. He set up a fire on the side and started to barbecue. In fact, in the soul beast forest, the most taboo thing is this kind of open flame, because the open flame can easily attract some powerful soul beasts, and even the smell of barbecue is the same. But now that Guy Yu is here, he can release his soul Douluo pressure at will, which is enough to frighten those soul beasts. So Xiao Xian started the barbecue so calmly. Oscar, who was absorbing the soul ring, did not waste a single bit of the soul ring's power. He completely borrowed the soul ring's energy to exercise his body and cleanse his body again. A full 3 hours had passed, and when the sharp-tailed Swift's soul ring was completely solidified on Oscar's body, Oscar's soul power was also completely solidified at level 33. Oscar slowly opened his eyes sparkling, and his 3 soul rings, 2 yellow and 1 purple, shone brightly. Teacher, I succeeded. My soul power has reached level 33, and my 3rd soul skill is also very powerful. Oscar said to Gaiyu. Gaiyu smiled and nodded when he heard this. He had never heard of the 3rd soul ring that was more than 6,000 years old before, but now he saw it with his own eyes. All this must be attributed to Oscar himself. Without Oscar, he would not have reached level 85 so quickly. Not bad, let me introduce your 3rd soul skill. Gaiyu said with satisfaction, please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. Chapter 36 The 3rd Soul Skill, Oscar's Improvement. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After hearing Gaiyu's words, Oscar directly revealed the effects of his soul skills. Teacher, my 3rd soul skill has the flying effect as expected. After taking my 3rd soul skill, I can fly for 15 minutes, and I can fly at the speed of a sharp-tailed swift for 15 minutes. With my current strength, which is equivalent to a sharp-tailed swift flying at full speed for 15 minutes, which is about 7,000 years old, in the future, as my strength increases, the flying speed of the 3rd soul skill will also increase. Hearing Oscar's words, both Gaiyu and Xiao Xian were shocked. If Oscar hadn't surprised them so much, they would have screamed I'm sorry. No one else, because Oscar's 3 soul skills can be continuously improved, which means that the effect of the soul skills can be improved as his strength increases. This is very terrifying. Most of the auxiliary soul masters' soul skills cannot do this. There are very few soul masters who can do this, and the improvement effect is definitely not as terrifying as Oscar's. If Oscar's own strength is improved, wouldn't Oscar's number 1 soul skill in the future be equivalent to allowing title Douluo to continuously recover their soul power, physical strength, injuries and mental power? Then wouldn't the 2nd soul skill, after Oscar breaks through to the title Douluo, be able to eliminate the poison of even 100,000-year-old soul beast and a title Douluo? The 3rd soul skill can even allow a soul master to directly have the flying speed of a 100,000-year-old sharp-tailed swift. Then wouldn't this far surpass title Douluo? You know, the flight speed of a 50,000-year level sharp-tailed swift is already faster than that of a 100,000-year level soul beast, not to mention the speed of a 100,000-year level sharp-tailed swift. And there seems to be no 100,000-year-old sharp-tailed swifts on this continent, right? Doesn't that mean that Oscar's soul skill can create the fastest flying soul master on the mainland? Although these premises are that Oscar has to practice to level 90, but with Oscar's current talent, level 90 is definitely not the end. Doesn't that mean that in the future Oscar's soul skill will be enough to change the strength of a soul master? Let it have leapfrog terrifying strength? If this is the case, Oscar's future in the auxiliary department should have surpassed the 7 treasures glazed tower, right? Thinking of this, it is not surprising that Gaiyu and Xiao Xian were shocked. Although Oscar himself was not so surprised, he was still very satisfied with the effect of the soul skill. After all, now he can not only fly for 15 minutes with just his 3rd soul ring, but his speed is also higher than that of a level 50 flying soul king. Isn't this flying speed much faster than his sword flying? Although Oscar's sword flying does not consume much soul power, its flying speed is about the same as that of a flying soul master of the same level. If a flying soul master of the same level uses soul skills, Oscar's sword flying speed will naturally not be as fast. Therefore, the flying skill obtained by this 3rd soul ring undoubtedly gave Oscar great escape ability. When encountering danger, he could escape quickly with this soul skill. However, it was not the first time that Gaiyu and Xiao Xian were surprised. After all, Oscar brought them too many surprises. In addition to the powerful soul skills and the 33rd level of soul power, Oscar's physical fitness has also directly reached the critical point between Soul Sect and Soul King after absorbing this 6,700-year-old soul ring. Oscar can be sure that his next breakthrough will be when his physical fitness reaches the Soul King level. And because his mental power has reached the level of a 30-plus Soul Master since the time of time travel, his physical fitness and mental power are also the same now. In other words, Oscar's mental power has also reached the 0 point for the Soul Sect to break through to the Soul King. His next breakthrough will also reach the Soul King level. This also means that Oscar's fourth Soul Ring can absorb a 10,000-year level Soul Ring even without the help of external force, which is the fairy herb. Therefore, this powerful mental power is undoubtedly the biggest cheat that Oscar has obtained since time travel. And it seems that it is precisely because of this powerful spiritual power that today's Oscar has fewer restrictions than the original work. For example, the problems of cumbersome soul skill spells and the effect of using one's own soul skills to be halved are gone. Today's Oscar is far more powerful than in the original work, and the efforts put in by Oscar in the original work are beyond the reach. After learning about Oscar's improvement and soul skills, Xiao Xian also handed the long-roasted sharp-tailed swift meat to Oscar and asked him to supplement it. Due to the special flight speed of this sharp-tailed swift, its meat is extremely firm and delicious. It is not only chewy but also makes people forget to leave. After eating barbecue, Oscar started practicing again and became familiar with his improved strength. It was not until dawn the next day that he went to obtain the 7th Soul Ring for Xiao Xian under the leadership of Gai Yu. Xiao Xian is now at level 70 and needs at least a 30,000-year-old Soul Ring. And because Xiao Xian also took whale glue to improve his physical fitness, his 7th Soul Ring can fully absorb a 45,000-year-old Soul Ring. About 1,000, so everyone inevitably has to enter the core area of Sunset Forest. The sharp-tailed swifts captured for Oscar before were only located next to the core area of Sunset Forest. After all, although the sharp-tailed swifts are unparalleled in speed, their attack power is basically at the bottom among the same level, so naturally they will not go deep into the core area. But now the Soul Ring that Xiao Xian needs has a lifespan of 45,000 years, so he has to go deep into the Sunset Forest, but fortunately, it is said that there are no 100,000-year soul beasts in Sunset Forest, and if this is the case, there will be no problem for Gai Yu to protect Oscar and Xiao Xian, so there is no need to worry about safety issues. When thinking about going deep into the core area, Oscar couldn't help but think of a treasure place in the Sunset Forest, which was also Oscar's dream place. This treasure is the Eye of Ice and Fire, and according to the timeline of the original work, Dugu'ao should have already occupied this place, so even if Oscar and the others find this place during their trip, they may not be able to enter, because it was described in the original work that in order to prevent this treasure place from being discovered by outsiders, Dugu'ao set up a terrifying poisonous array outside the treasure place. Entering under the title Douluo would lead to death. Even though Gai Yu is more powerful than ordinary Contras, with his current strength, there is still nothing he can do against Dugu'ao's poison. Although Oscar's second soul skill can detoxify, it can only detoxify poisons of the same level as him. As for the magical effect of the second soul skill, the level ignoring negative effects do not include poison. So although Oscar wanted to get lucky and find the Ice and Fire Eye this time, with his current strength, he couldn't get into the poison formation. Unless he is given medicinal materials of sufficient quality, Oscar can prepare an antidote, but the medicinal materials that can remove the poison of the title Douluo level are probably only available in the Eyes of Ice and Fire in this world. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. Chapter 37 Girl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In order to verify the power of Oscar's third soul skill, when looking for the 7th soul ring for Xiao Xian, the three of them directly took Oscar's third soul ring. Oscar's third soul skill is called Divine Swift Sausage. It is white in color. The sausage looks like a cute little swift. It tastes similar to the sharp-tailed swift's barbecue. It's delicious. However, there is no need to chew, because food-based soul skills generally turn into the essence of soul power upon entry, and the taste basically passes by in a flash, and the taste is gone before you can taste it. The flight time of Oscar's third soul skill is a full 15 minutes, and these 15 minutes are enough to fly very far, because Gai Yu is here this time. The choice of the 7th soul ring for Xiao Xian is also very refined. After all, at Xiao Xian's age, he has broken through level 70. Even if he is not destined to be a title Douluo in the future, he will still be able to practice to a high-level soul Douluo. Hopefully, there seems to be no title Douluo among food-type soul masters. If Xiao Xian can reach the strength of a high-level soul master in the future, his auxiliary abilities will definitely be unprecedented, and his seventh soul ring should be the position of the martial soul's true body, but the seventh soul rings of food-type soul masters are rarely able to produce the martial soul's true body. They are basically enhanced soul skills, so Xiao Xian chose a plant-based soul beast that lives in the sunset forest. This kind of soul beast not only has strong vitality, but also has extremely strong recovery ability, which is undoubtedly very suitable for Xiao Xian. After deciding on the target, Guy Yu took Oscar and Xiao Xian to start the search, but this time it seemed that he was not as lucky as before. After half a month of searching, he still couldn't find any trace of him. But Xiao Xian himself is not in a hurry. This is the case when searching for soul rings. In addition to having the ability to hunt soul beasts, sometimes luck is also part of it. If you are lucky enough, you may just set foot in the soul beast forest, and the soul beast will appear in front of you. If you are unlucky, you may not gain anything in the soul beast forest for most of the year. As a quasi-soul saint, Xiao Xian is used to this kind of thing. At noon that day, Xiao Xian was still resting and barbecuing in place, while Oscar was sitting cross-legged on the side to practice. After all, it was very important to get familiar with the strength of the soul ring he had just obtained. Guy Yu disappeared at this time, because he seemed to have found traces of the soul beast suitable for Xiao Xian's seventh soul ring, and was currently tracking the soul beast. The reason why Oscar and Xiao Xian were not brought was because this time they were facing a soul beast with at least 40,000 years of cultivation. In order to avoid an accident, Guy Yu placed the two of them here. This place is the territory of a 10,000-year soul beast. Guiyue came here and beat up the 10,000-year soul beast directly, then drove the 10,000-year soul beast out of the territory, and then they occupied this place. Except for the social soul beasts, most 10,000-year soul beasts basically have a strong sense of territory, so after this 10,000-year soul beast was driven away, no soul beast would set foot here for a period of time. Because 10,000-year soul beasts will leave their aura within the territory in order to plan their own territory, ordinary soul beasts would not dare to harass them. After ensuring their safety, Guy Yu left, leaving Xiao Xian and Oscar cooking here. While Oscar was practicing, Xiao Xian suddenly felt something was wrong and shouted to Oscar, "Xiao Ao, a soul beast is approaching here quickly. It should be a 1,000-year soul beast." Xiao Xian said and pointed Oscar in a direction. After hearing this, Oscar immediately opened his eyes and looked in the direction Xiao Xian pointed. His mental energy was released, and he also sensed the spirit beast that was approaching quickly. Although Oscar was a little surprised that a 1,000-year soul beast would break into the territory of a 10,000-year soul beast, this was obviously not the time to think about such things. Oscar quickly took out 2 flying swift intestines and gave one to Xiao Xian. This third soul skill is what Oscar has been storing for the past half-month so that when encountering this special situation, he no longer needs to spend soul power to make sausages, thereby ensuring his combat effectiveness. However, the two of them did not eat it immediately. Oscar quickly came to Xiao Xian, azure light bloomed in his left hand, and a jade sword appeared in his hand. In fact, if it was just a 1,000-year-old soul beast, the two of them didn't need to be so careful at all, because although Xiao Xian has no attack power, his soul power level is real. As long as he releases the soul power pressure, most of these 1,000-year-old soul beasts will not dare to approach again. It's just that this 1,000-year soul beast is obviously special. It dares to break into the territory of a 10,000-year soul beast. This undoubtedly proves that the pressure of soul power may not be effective. Moreover, it was just a 1,000-year soul beast, and Oscar was fully capable of dealing with it with his current strength. Therefore, although the two of them were alert, they did not take off immediately. The two of them had just made preparations when a snake-like spirit beast with a body length of 8 or 9 meters sprang out from the grass 10 meters in front of them. Oscar knew the name of this spirit beast the moment he saw it. Purple poison viper is one of the most poisonous snake soul beasts. The poison of this soul beast is extremely corrosive. Even if the snake venom does not enter the body, contact with the skin will cause ulcers and eventually turn into a pool of pus. I don't know why, but several scales on this purple poisonous viper's body are missing. It's obviously a serious injury, but Oscar couldn't care about this. The moment the purple poisonous viper appeared, Oscar's jade sword had already cut out a sword energy. Oscar did not hold back because he was not sure whether the purple poisonous viper was crazy. After all, being able to directly break into the territory of a 10,000-year-old soul beast obviously cannot use common sense, so Oscar naturally has to strike first. Frost Moon Slash, that a terrifying sword energy combined with soul power was emitted, and it struck directly on the head of the purple poison viper. The purple poison viper seemed to be in a hurry to escape, and did not notice the existence of Oscar and Xiao Xian at all, so it was too late. Dodge Oscar's attacks. I saw this purple poisonous viper collided directly with Oscar's sword attack, and was cut in two. The two bodies of the purple poison viper did not seem to die immediately when they fell on the ground, but twisted crazily. A large amount of venom was still spraying randomly from its mouth, as if it was a counterattack before death. However, the distance between the two sides was 10 meters, so the poison of the purple viper could not attack Oscar and Xiao Xian at all. Oscar, who killed the purple poison viper with one sword, was not surprised. With his current strength, he was definitely more than enough to deal with the purple poison viper. However, he didn't expect that the other party had already suffered serious injuries. Without dodging, Oscar was killed in one blow. And just after Oscar cut off the purple poison viper with a sword, a tall girl with short green hair and swaying snake tail came over and appeared exactly where the purple poison viper died. When the girl saw the purple poison viper, which had begun to gather its soul ring, she looked at Oscar with a hint of anger in her eyes. A somewhat angry shout came. "Hey, you, why did you kill my soul beast? Please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. I have read all the cute comments from my brothers in the past 2 days, and they all said that it is unreasonable for the protagonist to read some fairy herbs in the book. This point will be explained later in the book, but it was briefly mentioned in the previous chapter and not explained. You will know it later if you read it slowly. I will try my best to write this closed loop. There is also the point where the protagonist takes the first piece of whale glue. It is also explained in the book. That is because the protagonist's physical fitness is just at the critical point of breaking through. The whale glue is just equivalent to a switch, which changes the protagonist's previous physical exercise, and the medicinal bath thing exploded. That's why so many breakthroughs occurred at once. In the end, I just begged my brothers to read more. PK these weeks depends on data. Please, it would be better if the brothers who have tickets can vote more. Thank you. Chapter 38 Dugu Yan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moment Oscar saw this girl, he was stunned for a moment, and then felt a little incredible. The martial spirit possesses a snake tail, green hair and pupils, and it happens to be in the Sunset Forest. In summary, Oscar only thought of one person, and that was Dugu Yan. Is it just that I am really so lucky? Did you meet Dugu Yan now? No, it seemed that I had just killed the soul beast that the other party was chasing, and this Dugu Yan didn't look as cold as when he appeared in the original work. Several thoughts flashed through Oscar's mind, but it was obviously not the time to think about them at this moment. After hearing the other party's slightly questioning words, Oscar's handsome little face didn't show much expression. What he has to do now is to pretend not to know the other party's identity, and then shape his character well. After all, judging from Dugu Bo's love for Dugu Yan in the original novel, it is absolutely impossible for Dugu Bo to let Dugu Yan hunt the soul beast alone. At this moment, Dugu Bo is very likely to be in the dark. The reason why Oscar made such a guess was naturally because the injury on the purple poisonous viper he just killed was obviously not caused by Dugu Yan, so the answer may be that Dugu Bo injured the purple poisonous viper, so that Dugu Yan could kill it by himself. And by the way, Dugu Yan could be sharpened. Because Zhao Wuji used Oscar to sharpen Oscar in this way before, and with Oscar's intelligence, he could easily guess it, and even if the guess is not completely correct, it is definitely not far behind, so there was no joy or unnecessary expression on Oscar's face at this time. He just said calmly, "Girl, don't get excited yet." Hearing this, Dugu Yan looked at Oscar, and then said, "I'm not excited, but why did you kill my soul beast?" Oscar replied calmly, "First of all, I didn't know that this soul beast was the target of your pursuit. Secondly, this purple poisonous viper broke into our camp, and I only killed it to protect myself. Looking at Oscar's handsome face, he was very calm, and after explaining to her, Dugu Yan gradually became less angry. Although Grandpa injured the purple poisonous viper and asked him to do it, his speed was still much slower than the purple poisonous viper, so he chased it all the way here. But now after hearing Oscar's explanation, Dugu Yan also felt that it was indeed not the other party's fault. But before Dugu Yan could continue to speak, Oscar spoke again, but it is indeed because of us that you lost your third soul ring. If you need it, we can also help you according to your request. Hunt 1. Hearing this, Dugu Yan was stunned for a moment, and then asked, how do you know this is my third soul ring? Oscar smiled slightly. Actually, it's not difficult to guess. Just look at the scars on this purple poisonous viper. You can tell that this was probably done intentionally by the girl's elders. The purpose should be to temper the girl, but your strength should be lacking. So we let it go and let it run all the way to our camp. Dugu Yan was still a little surprised when he heard this, because what Oscar said was completely right. Dugu Yan wanted to refute something, but found that she seemed to have nothing to refute, because it was indeed caused by her own reasons. However, Dugu Yan was not someone who was easily deceived. He glanced at Oscar and then at the purple poison viper who had already condensed a soul ring. No matter what, you promised to help me find a suitable soul ring. You can't go back on this, right? Dugu Yan's snake tail transformed into a pair of long, straight and round legs, and he said to Oscar. It was also at this time that Oscar noticed Dugu Yan's figure. Although Oscar was only 11 years old, he was already 1.88 meters tall after having just absorbed the third soul ring. However, Dugu Yan himself was not short either, about 1.8 meters tall. Mi Chi's appearance, at this moment, her snake tail turned into legs again, and she looked very charming with her bare, crystal clear feet, because Dugu Yan's figure was already very plump, and could probably be compared with the girl of around 20 years old in Oscar's previous life, and Oscar, who has focused almost all his attention on cultivation for more than 5 years, saw such a beauty at this moment, as if he had a feeling that he would last forever after just one glance. However, Oscar himself was able to restrain himself and avoid exposing his flaws. Oscar quickly avoided Dugu Yan's gaze and said calmly, of course. After answering Dugu Yan's question, Oscar continued, why do you appear here alone? This is the inner area of the Sunset Forest, and the people who live there are soul beasts that are at least 10,000 years old. It's difficult to enter here with your strength. Are you separated from your elders? Listening to Oscar's question, Dugu Yan hesitated for a moment, then looked at Oscar and Xiao Xian, and then slowly replied, I came here with my grandfather, when I was chasing this purple poisonous viper. Got separated from Grandpa. Just as Dugu Yan finished speaking, a dark figure staring at Dugu Yan not far away stopped. A pair of dark green pupils flickered, and then a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he hid in the darkness again. When Oscar heard this, he was slightly startled. Logically speaking, with Dugu Bo's strength, it is impossible to lose Dugu Yan. What's more, the old man doted on Dugu Yan very much. How could he let her fall into this trap? Danger. But Oscar soon realized that perhaps Dugu Yan's words were not meant for him, but for his secretly hidden counterpart, Dugu Bo. But what is Dugu Yan's purpose? Why hide Dugu Bo and stay by yourself? Isn't she afraid of being a bad person? In fact, Dugu Yan also made the decision after hesitation, for no other reason. In fact, the reason is very simple. First of all, Oscar's strength must be better than hers. Secondly, this was the first time in 15 years that she had met such a handsome young man in this way. He was about the same age as her, but his strength was superior to hers. He was obviously a genius, so Dugu Yan also wanted to stay and have a look because of some strange combination of circumstances. After all, her grandfather was by her side, so she wasn't afraid even if he had evil thoughts. Oscar did not reveal the truth, but nodded thoughtfully. I see, then it's better to do this. You stay here first, and after my teacher comes back, we will help you find your grandfather, and help you by the way. Hunt a suitable soul beast again as your third soul ring. Hearing this, Dugu Yan nodded slightly, and then said a little apologetically, I'm sorry just now, I was a little excited. Oscar looked at Dugu Yan, who took the initiative to apologize, and smiled slightly. It doesn't matter, everything happens for a reason. My name is Oscar, and I am a student of Shrek Academy. What about you? Oscar self-reported to the academy because people in the Soul Master Academy are generally simple-minded, so they can better build relationships with each other. Oscar introduced himself, and Dugu Yan also introduced himself. My name is Dugu Yan, I haven't entered the academy yet. Hearing this, Oscar was stunned for a moment, because according to Dugu Yan's age, she should have entered the Tiando Royal Academy. Why would she say that she has not entered the academy yet? Then Oscar took the initiative to step forward and stretched out his right hand. Nice to meet you, Dugu Yan. Seeing Oscar's hand stretched out, Dugu Yan subconsciously wanted to hold it. It's like if a beautiful woman stretches out her hand to you, you will definitely shake it subconsciously. However, Dugu Yan immediately put down the hand he had picked up and said apologetically, sorry, due to some reasons of my own, I may not be able to shake hands with you. Please collect and recommend. Monthly ticket. Chapter 39 Shy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dugu Yan looked a little lonely when he said this, and Oscar, who had read the original work, could guess some of it. In the original work, Dugu Yan should have appeared 3 years later, that is, a few months after Tang San and the others entered Shrek. The description given to Dugu Yan in the original work was that he was extremely poisonous. Except for Yu Tianheng, everyone else, anyone who touches her may be poisoned. Even though Dugu Yan and Yu Tianheng confirmed their relationship, there seemed to be no deeper contact between them, perhaps because Dugu Yan was highly poisonous. It has to be said that the green-scaled snake venom is indeed overbearing. However, it is naturally impossible for Oscar to just give such a casual answer at this time. After all, being able to see Dugu Yan here is regarded as a chance given to him by God. Whether he can seize it depends on Oscar himself. Oscar withdrew his hand, looked at Dugu Yan, who was looking a little lonely, and said slowly, is it because of the poison on your body? Hearing Oscar's words, Dugu Yan raised her head fiercely and looked at Oscar. Dugu Yan was sure that this was definitely her first meeting with Oscar, but how could the other party know about the poison on her body? You, how do you know? Seeing Dugu Yan's reaction, Oscar explained, don't worry, in addition to being a soul master, I'm also a pharmacist. I've already made some guesses from the first time I saw you. You just got close. I smelled a faint fishy smell from you when you were there, so I made such a guess. After hearing Oscar's explanation, Dugu Yan touched his bare feet to the ground and took 2 steps back instantly. He folded his arms and looked at Oscar, his face changing slightly. Seeing Dugu Yan's expression, Oscar was a little confused, because he knew very well what Dugu Yan's expression and movements just meant. This kind of movements and expressions are usually the way girls show shyness in front of the person they like, fearing that the other person will dislike them. It's just that he and Dugu Yan just met. Could it be that Dugu Yan fell in love with him at first sight? Although Oscar knows that he has a beautiful face, a talented appearance, a graceful demeanor, and a beautiful tree facing the wind, but it's not like Dugu Yan will like it directly, right? No, that's not right. This should be because the other party has a good impression of him, and then he directly points out the other party's shortcomings, so Dugu Yan will. In fact, Dugu Yan was indeed because of this, and Oscar just said that he smelled the fishy smell on her body, so Dugu Yan, who was ready to get to know Oscar, suddenly flinched. After all, Oscar is indeed the most beautiful person of the opposite sex she has ever seen, and he is very good, and the other person does not understand her. In addition, her grandfather also said that she should get to know more people of the same age, so she has this kind of idea, but now that the truth has been exposed directly, Dugu Yan is a little scared. She is not afraid of what Oscar will do to her. Not to mention that Oscar doesn't look like a bad person. She is secretly protected by her grandfather. What she is afraid of is that Oscar will dislike her, but Oscar was stunned for a moment, and then said slowly, you don't have to be like this. Although I sympathize with your experience, what I want to tell you is that there are some things that we cannot change. Our bodies are given by our parents. So there is no need for you to feel inferior because of this. Hearing Oscar's words, Dugu Yan raised her head in surprise and looked at Oscar. She found that Oscar's eyes actually knew her secret without being disgusted or afraid. Are you telling the truth? Oscar smiled slightly. Of course, not to mention that you are such a beautiful girl, why should you care about this flaw? And the more you care, the more others can use this to target you, and it will become yours. Flaw. If we don't regard this as a shortcoming, then we are still perfect, right? With that said, Oscar silly summoned his martial spirit as if to empathize with Dugu Yan. Look, my martial soul is obviously just a food-type sausage, but I can have the strength to kill this 1000-year level purple poisonous viper with one sword. Why is this? Because I don't take advantage of the flaws I already have. See it as a shortcoming, but it is my motivation for self-motivation. In fact, to a certain extent, maybe we are the same people. You should have inherited the poison from your parents, and I inherited the martial arts from my parents. Since we can't change the current situation, why not change it? What about the day after tomorrow? The eyes of others are important, but the most important thing is your own heart. Dugu Yan just looked at Oscar and started thinking after listening to his words. Although he was shocked that Oscar was just a food-type soul master and could also possess the strength to kill purple poisonous vipers, the most important thing was Oscar's last words, and the most important thing was his own heart. It doesn't matter what others think, what matters is how you think. Thank you. After a long time, Dugu Yan bowed to Oscar. You are the first person besides Grandpa to say these words to me. In the past, I only thought these were Grandpa's words to comfort me. How could anyone want to be my friend? Now I should believe it. Oscar smiled slightly. Dugu Yan, you have to be confident. Although we have just met, we may be able to become friends. With that said, Oscar stretched out his right hand again. Dugu Yan also smiled when he heard this. Well, but I still can't. Before Dugu Yan finished speaking, Oscar took the initiative to hold Dugu Yan's right hand. Dugu Yan was stunned for a moment, then quickly broke away from Oscar's hand and lowered his head. Her face instantly turned red. Aren't you afraid of being poisoned? Oscar smiled slightly. Actually, it's not as serious as you think. Your poison is indeed powerful, but if your soul power is higher than yours, and you have good resistance to poison, just shaking hands won't do anything. Oscar said and stretched out his right hand to show it to Dugu Yan. Dugu Yan took a look at Oscar's hand and found that there was indeed nothing wrong with it. Then she couldn't help but look up at Oscar's face and found that there was only a warm smile on his face. Seeing Dugu Yan and himself looking at each other, Oscar continued, my second soul ring comes from a soul beast with strong poison resistance, so my own poison resistance has also been improved. In addition, my strength is if it's above you, there won't be any problems. When Dugu Yan heard this, he quickly lowered his head and his face turned even redder. It seems that this is his first contact with the opposite sex besides his family, right? Why do you have this feeling of rapid heartbeat? Okay, tell me what you have to say slowly. We just roasted some meat. Let's eat some together. When my teacher comes back, we will take you to find your grandpa. Looking at Dugu Yan, who was actually shy, Oscar smiled. Said, please collect, recommend, and vote for me monthly. Chapter 40 Deception. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Xian looked at Oscar, who was so good at teasing a little girl, and smiled and said nothing. When he heard that Oscar invited Dugu Yan to eat barbecue, Xiao Xian also cut it directly on the side. Taking Dugu Yan to the bonfire, Oscar handed the roast meat cut by Xiao Xian to Dugu Yan. Try it, Teacher Xiao's craftsmanship is outstanding, I guarantee you will never come back. Thank you. Dugu Yan took the barbecue and smelled the alluring aroma of the barbecue, and couldn't help but salivate. It had been some time since he entered the sunset forest, and he had been looking for and chasing soul beasts. At this time, Dugu Yan was indeed a little hungry. Dugu Yan took the barbecue and ate it in small bites. The moment the barbecue entered his mouth, Dugu Yan was completely convinced that Oscar's words were true. Dugu Yan, who enjoyed the delicious food, couldn't help but praise Xiao Xian. Teacher's cooking is so good, it's much more delicious than those baked by some chef. Hearing the praise from Dugu Yan, Xiao Xian's chubby round face also became a little more happy. Girl, if you like you, eat more. There are plenty here. Xiao Xian said and handed Dugu Yan another piece of cut chest muscle meat. Dugu Yan said thank you and took it. In fact, most of the soul masters, regardless of whether they are male or female, eat a lot, because their usual consumption is many times that of ordinary people, but because it is soul beast meat, the energy in it is also many times that of ordinary food. Therefore, you can provide enough energy without eating too much, but Xiao Xian's cooking was so delicious that Dugu Yan couldn't help but eat several pieces, and didn't stop until his stomach was bulging. While enjoying the barbecue, Oscar sat directly 1 meter away from Dugu Yan and started chatting with her. Dugu Yan was naturally happy to see Oscar show his kindness, and he was such a handsome guy. After all, this is the first person who can open his heart and accept her, and he is also a handsome guy. You can analyze from various information that I am poisoned. Did you come from a family of pharmacologists? Dugu Yan couldn't help but ask. Oscar shook his head when he heard this. No, I'm just more studious, because I am a food soul master myself, so I have been studying pharmacology since I was 6 years old. Are you self-taught? But you should be about the same age as me, right? How much time do you have to study when you are 15 or 16 years old? The fact that you can see my problem at a glance is enough to prove that you have certain attainments in pharmacology, yeah. Dugu Yan said a little puzzled. Oscar explained, speaking of which, I am also very lucky. Originally, I only studied through various pharmacology books. It is naturally difficult to achieve the attainments I have now. However, I was lucky when I was 8 years old. I won an auction at an auction. I bought an ancient book at the market, which was written by a master of pharmacology. It recorded his life story, and I also learned from it. After hearing Oscar's words, Dugu Yan finally understood why Oscar had such high pharmacological attainments at such a young age, and Oscar did not lie. When he was 8 years old, Oscar went to the auction house in Soto City with Flanders to see if he could find any treasures. One of the items on the lot was an ancient book, but it was about pharmacology. It doesn't seem to matter in Douluo Continent. In the original work, only Ju Douluo Yueguan and Yang Wudi's Peji clan had in-depth research, and most soul masters focused on cultivation, so Oscar got this ancient book. Many pharmacology, medicated baths, and elixir formulas were obtained from it, and some detailed records of immortal herbs were also found in it. After starting a topic, Oscar naturally started chatting with Dugu Yan. During the chat, Oscar found that Dugu Yan was not as arrogant as in the original work, and even a little shy, but he did have a little confidence. As the two chatted animatedly, Oscar also found out Dugu Yan's age, 15 years old, and had just broken through level 30. She is here to get the 3rd soul ring this time. After getting the soul ring, she will go to Tiando Royal Academy to enroll, because her grandfather said that she cannot be alone in this life and needs to make more friends and so on. After Oscar learned this specific information, he instantly understood that the original appearance of Dugu Yan was a few months after Tang San and the others entered school, that is, 3 years later, and at that time, Dugu Yan was already 18 years old. The soul power may be level 38, now Oscar meets Dugu Yan 3 years in advance, and she has not yet joined the Tiando Royal Academy. It has to be said that this may be the opportunity God gave him, because nowadays Dugu Yan rarely comes into contact with other people except Dugu'ao, because she also went to the Junior Soul Master Academy when she was a child, but because of her martial arts, she was born poisonous, so she had no friends, and was even attracted by other people. The kids disliked it, so she dropped out of school. Until she was 15 years old, she basically had no friends. She would be alone and would be disliked if she went out, but because she has a grandfather with a title of Douluo, people who know her identity don't dare to do anything to her. Although there are some who play with her, they are all here to curry favor with her. Over time, Dugu Yan simply stopped going to the academy. But now that she is 15 years old, Dugu'ao himself knows that he cannot stay with Dugu Yan for the rest of his life, so he deliberately trains Dugu Yan and lets her go to Tiando Royal Academy to study. But now that Oscar knows that Dugu Yan has not joined the academy, he will naturally not take her for granted so easily. Moreover, at this time, Dugu Yan is not deeply involved in the world, so it is the best time to fool him. And after Oscar heard what happened to Dugu Yan, he really felt sorry for this girl and really treated her as a normal person. In this case, Dugu Yan can have a handsome and wealthy good friend like Oscar, and Oscar can also take this opportunity to plan the ice and fire eyes, which is the best of both worlds. So at the end of the chat, Oscar directly invited Dugu Yan to come to his academy. Originally, Dugu Yan was a little flattered by Oscar's invitation, but then Oscar coaxed her and said, "Our college only accepts monsters, and now there are only 3 of them. If there is another great beauty like you, she will definitely be ours. Group favor," and so on. Oscar coaxed Dugu Yan until her face turned red. The key point was that Oscar's words were not lies. Dugu Yan felt Oscar's sincerity, so she was indeed moved, and when she heard Oscar say that their academy only recruits geniuses, Dugu Yan was thinking that maybe Oscar's academy would be more suitable for her. After all, Oscar herself is already a monster as an auxiliary system and has the strength of the attack system, and she herself is also poisonous. Even if she does not use soul skills, ordinary soul masters will get into trouble when they encounter her. A monster enters the Monster Academy. This is as it should be, and when Dugu Yan learned that Oscar was actually only 11 years old, he was even more surprised than before when he learned that Oscar was a food-type soul master. It's not because Oscar is not as mature and stable as he was at the age of 11, but because Oscar has already reached the soul level when he was only 11 years old. When Dugu Yan was 11 years old, he was only in his 20s, so Oscar was already the soul level. Please collect, recommend and vote for me monthly.